Orlando's known as the theme park capital of the world, but that doesn't mean that every theme park has stood the test of time. Some were competing with Disney for a piece of the tourism pie, while others were Disney's own creations that just couldn't keep up with guest expectations. Today, we're going to cover 6 of these lost and forgotten theme parks that were once full of life, but are now echoes of the past. We start off in Haines City, just about 20 minutes south of Walt Disney World, in front of what looks like a normal apartment complex, but was actually home to Circus World. You like the umbrella? It's 1971. Bell bottoms are in, disco is brewing, and Ringling Brothers and Barnum & Bailey Circus just sold to Mattel for a cool $40 million. About $314 million in today's money. Mattel, riding high on its toy empire, took one look at the success of Walt Disney World and said, yeah, we can do that, but with clowns. Enter Circus World, a theme park so ambitious it started with its own preview center, Circus World Showcase. Construction for the preview center began in April of 1973 with the grand opening set for December of that year. That is until Mattel got cold feet and tried to sell the whole thing. So before this thing was even completed, they were already looking for a way out. With no buyers in sight, they decided to roll with it and open the preview center in February of 1974. It had circus shows, information on the totally real, totally happening future park, and most importantly, the Ringling Brothers and Barnum & Bailey Clown College. Over the next few years, the park sort of took shape. But by the time it actually opened in 1976, it looked nothing like the original grand plans. Dreams of a 19-story elephant-shaped hotel, an immersive shopping district, and even a circus-themed water park had all been sent to the big top in the sky. But hey, at least they got some cool attractions, like the Roaring Tiger, a wooden coaster that opened in 1978. Michael Jackson was such a fan, he made sure to ride it every single time he was in Florida. I guess no other coaster could really beat it. But then in 1986, the dream, or nightmare depending on how you feel about clowns, came to an abrupt end. Employees were told to start looking for new jobs immediately. But was this the end for the struggling park? Not quite. After changing hands multiple times in the 1980s, things were not looking good. Circus World never truly became what it was meant to be, and people were much more interested in things like Epcot at the time. So why not change hands one more time and rebrand to baseball? Maybe that'll be the thing that puts them on the map. Enter HBJ, a publishing company with big dreams in the theme park landscape. They scooped up Circus World along with Cypress Gardens and SeaWorld and decided, you know what this circus-themed park needs? Less clowns and more baseball. For a modest $50 million in renovations, they transformed Circus World into Boardwalk and Baseball, a turn-of-the-century seaside boardwalk-inspired theme park centered around America's pastime.
At Boardwalk and Baseball, you won't find video games or laser shows or anything high-tech. What you will find are traditional classic attractions, a wooden roller coaster, a log flume, baseball, and Wild West shows, family attractions that are as fun today as way back when.
The rebranded park opened in 1987, keeping most of the original rides but ditching every trace of the circus. The biggest addition, a full-size baseball stadium that became the Kansas City Royals' official spring training home. They even signed a 15-year contract, so surely this meant the park was finally on solid ground, right? Nope. Even with a major retheme and a literal baseball stadium, the park was hemorrhaging money. By 1990, less than 3 years after opening, HBJ threw in the towel. They sold off Boardwalk and Baseball along with Cypress Gardens and SeaWorld to Busch Entertainment. Busch Entertainment examined the numbers, consulted their accountants, and then quietly set the whole thing on fire. Figuratively, of course, marking the end of this big swing that unfortunately never made it past first base. I think that's enough about baseball, so now let's talk about Margaritaville, or what was there before Margaritaville, Splendid China, a 75-acre, $100 million miniature park owned by the Chinese government. So let's talk about what happened to this lost and forgotten park. Amidst Florida's growing theme park scene, a Taiwanese real estate mogul by the name of Josephine Chen had a different plan. An attraction celebrating China's rich history. Her inspiration? Splendid China Folk Village in Shenzhen, China. A sprawling cultural attraction packed with intricate miniature replicas of China's most iconic landmarks. Visitors could stroll past a pint-sized Great Wall, marvel at a scaled-down Forbidden City, and explore villages showcasing China's ethnic diversity. Seeing its success, Qin had a revelation. Sure, Epcot has China, but what if the whole park was China and had no rides and was really, really tiny? Qin, already in possession of 560 acres just 2 miles from Walt Disney World, saw an opportunity to bring her vision to life. She partnered on the project with CTS, the state-run tourism agency behind the original Splendid China in Shenzhen, to develop a Florida counterpart backed by a $100 million investment. Construction began in December of 1989 with plans to create an immersive cultural showcase highlighting China's history, architecture, and traditions. When Splendid China Orlando finally opened, it was visually stunning.
Journey back into 5,000 years of mystery, grandeur, art, excitement, and the oldest continuous culture on Earth, China.
75 meticulously crafted acres filled with over 60 miniature replicas of China's most famous landmarks, from the Great Wall to the Terracotta Army. The park also had live performances featuring dancers, acrobats, and folk musicians aimed to immerse visitors in traditional Chinese culture. But from day one, the park faced some issues, like a pro-China narrative pushed by the Chinese government, FBI investigations into alleged Chinese spies working at the park, human rights protests starting literally on opening day, underpaid and mistreated staff, and that was just the start. Despite the craftsmanship, the park lacked one key ingredient: rides. Turns out most Orlando tourists weren't looking for a relaxed cultural experience. They wanted thrills, mascots, and a $12 soda and a collectible cup. Oh, and maybe some popcorn. Oh, definitely one of those soft Mickey pretzels with that plastic cheese. Oh, I love that cheese. Anyway, attendance was abysmal. After a decade of financial struggles, bad PR, and dwindling visitors, Splendid China finally shut down on December 31st, 2003. But all wasn't lost, because from the ashes of ancient Chinese history rose Margaritaville Resort. That's right. Where once stood a tribute to centuries of Chinese culture, you'll now find a very different kind of cultural experience. One built around margaritas, flip-flops, and an endless loop of Jimmy Buffett music. Because if there's one thing Florida can always count on, it's booze and beachfront vibes. If you made it this far in the video, you probably care a little bit about the Orlando area. This video is actually brought to you by the Posit Group. Looking to buy or sell real estate in the Orlando area? We can help at info@positgroup.com or theorlandoreal.com/real. Now back to the video. So far, we've been covering places that followed in Disney's footsteps, right? They wanted a piece of that tourism pie. But what about Disney themselves, right? We've seen attractions come and go, but did you know that before Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach, there was actually a water park right here on property?
River country, big river country, it's a hoop, it's a holler, it's a water jamboree. River country, big river country, if you're hot around the collar, it's a cool place to be.
With the success of Magic Kingdom, tourists from all over the country flocked to Florida, eager to experience the magic of Disney World. But in 1973, the tourism industry ran out of gas. Literally. An oil embargo was placed on countries that supported Israel during the Yom Kippur War, including the United States. Overnight, gas prices quadrupled, fuel shortages led to lines at the gas station stretching for miles, and suddenly, a road trip to Disney didn't sound as appealing. Since most visitors traveled from out of state by car or plane, attendance took a serious hit. To keep numbers up, Disney had to pivot, and that pivot led to one of its most infamous creations: River Country. To attract more local visitors during the drop in out-of-state travelers, Disney opened River Country in 1976, a rustic, old-fashioned swimming hole straight out of Mark Twain's America. The idea was simple: make it feel like you just stumbled upon a hidden watering hole in the wilderness, where they charge you admission. Unlike today's heavily themed state-of-the-art Disney water parks, River Country was charmingly low-tech. The park featured artificial rockwork, rope bridges, and slides that looked like they were carved right into the landscape. The centerpiece was Bay Cove, a 1.6-acre sand-bottom swimming hole designed to feel like part of the nearby Bay Lake. Instead of using chlorine like a normal water park, Bay Cove relied on a unique filtration system that pulled in lake water, ran it through a filter, and cycled it through the swim area. If that sounds questionable, it's because it was. It was still lake water, murky and all. In the early days, Disney actually welcomed competition. More attractions meant more tourists, and that meant more business for them. But when Michael Eisner took over as CEO in 1984, that philosophy went out the window. Eisner wasn't about to sit back and let places like Wet n Wild dominate the water park game. Instead of upgrading River Country, he made the decision to go big or go home, creating not only one, but two brand new water parks in Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach. So why create two new parks and not just do upgrades? Well, that's because River Country had a few major problems. It was tiny, with a max capacity of just 4,700 guests. For comparison, Magic Kingdom can hold over 100,000 guests. The lake water filtration system, which we will get back to in a minute, was, let's just say, not great. Theming at the new water parks would be bigger, better, and more immersive, and River Country was simply outdated. Despite its shrinking relevance, River Country continued to operate until November 2nd, 2001, when it closed for its seasonal winter break. The only problem, it never reopened. There are plenty of reasons why Disney quietly pulled the plug on River Country, but one that stands out above the rest is the water. Because the park relied on filtered Bay Lake water, it was never properly chlorinated. While that may have sounded natural on a brochure, it was a massive health risk. By the 1980s and the 1990s, Florida updated health codes banning water parks from using untreated natural water sources. Suddenly, River Country wasn't just outdated, it didn't meet health codes. But the most infamous incident in the park's history happened in August of 1980, when an 11-year-old boy from North Carolina tragically died after contracting Naegleria fowleri, a rare but deadly brain-eating amoeba found in warm freshwater. So suddenly, murky lake water didn't seem so nostalgic. Between the bad press, outdated attractions, bigger and better water parks, and the post-9/11 tourism slump, River Country never reopened after its 2001 winter closure. Disney officially declared it closed for good on January 20th, 2005. But the decaying remnants of the park sat abandoned for over a decade, fueling Urban Explorer videos and ghost stories. Today, River Country is just a distant memory, but it definitely left its mark. It was Disney's first ever water park, and while it may have ended in controversy, it paved the way for the massive high-budget water parks that followed. As for its former location, well, Disney eventually demolished what was left of River Country and announced the Reflections, a Disney Lakeside Lodge project, in October of 2018. But that was eventually canceled. As of late 2024, though, a DVC property called Disney Lakeshore Lodge looks to be being built with an expected opening date of 2027. While River Country may be long gone, its story is far from forgotten. For those who remember its murky waters, rustic charm, and uniquely questionable design choices, River Country remains a fascinating piece of Disney history. Funny enough, right next door to River Country was Discovery Island, another lost and forgotten Disney attraction that opened up in the 1970s that was an 11-acre wildlife preserve.
Some vacationers' idea of recreation means relaxation, pure and simple. Taking in the quiet moments and admiring nature at her best. There is such a corner of the world. Actually, it's an island in the middle of Bay Lake, transformed into a beautiful zoological garden. Discovery Island is a recreation of a tropical rainforest.
Before Animal Kingdom became Disney's premier wildlife park, there was Discovery Island, where guests could walk among exotic birds, tortoises, and even alligators. But long before Disney took over, the island had a history of its own. Originally called Raz Island in the early 1900s, it later became Riles Island, a private hunting retreat. Rumor has it that when Walt Disney bought the land for his Florida project, he flew over Bay Lake and pointed at Riles Island as a major deciding factor in choosing the location. Driven by the same push to attract local visitors amid the 1973 oil crisis caused by the Yom Kippur War, Disney began construction on the new park the same year. In 1974, Disney opened the park as Treasure Island, a pirate-themed attraction inspired by the 1950s Disney film of the same name, combining nature with Disney storytelling. To reinforce the theme, the island featured a shipwreck along the shore, adding to the immersive experience. But just 2 years later, Disney rebranded the park as Discovery Island, shifting the focus entirely to wildlife conservation and making it an official zoological park. Since the island was only accessible by boat, guests arrived via ferries transporting them throughout the day. For 25 years, Discovery Island was a peaceful retreat where guests could see over 140 species of animals, exploring a massive aviary, and even hand-feeding birds. For its time, Discovery Island was a unique and exciting experience for guests, but as the years went on, Disney had bigger and better ideas. In 1998, Disney opened Animal Kingdom, a full-scale zoological theme park that made Discovery Island obsolete overnight. Instead of a small island filled with birds, guests could now see elephants, lions, zebras, go on a full safari tour, and experience heavily themed attractions. With the arrival of Animal Kingdom, attendance plummeted, and in March of 1999, Disney officially announced the closure of Discovery Island. On April 8th, 1999, the last guests stepped off the island and its remaining animals were transferred to Animal Kingdom. But the most interesting part to me is that Disney never tore it down. The island has been completely abandoned for over 20 years, left to rot in the middle of Bay Lake. The old aviaries, decaying buildings, and overgrown paths are still there, hidden behind layers of Florida jungle. Over the years, urban explorers have snuck onto the island, capturing eerie footage of empty animal enclosures, forgotten equipment, and even old cast member uniforms left behind. Some say the power stayed on at the park for years after its closure, with lights mysteriously turning on at night, adding to the island's lore and mystery. Disney has never officially announced plans for Discovery Island, despite rumors of it being turned into a high-end resort, a pirate-themed attraction, or even an interactive mystery island based around the old PC game Myst. But at this point, it's just a ghost of Disney's past, hiding in plain sight. Whatever the future holds, Discovery Island remains one of Disney's strangest abandoned locations, a wildlife park that time and Disney left behind. Not all of Disney's failed attractions were so rustic though. Some were the exact opposite, like right here at Disney Springs, or at the time, downtown Disney, where Disney Quest once stood. From the moment you stepped into the Cyberlator elevator and were greeted by Genie on screen, you knew you were in for something special. 5 stories, 100,000 square feet, and completely windowless, Disney Quest was an immersive, futuristic arcade complex unlike anything Disney had ever built before. For many, it was a childhood dream come true, but for Disney, it was supposed to be the future of theme parks. Instead, it became one of Disney's most ambitious flops. In the mid to late 90s, arcades and in-person gaming experiences were still huge. Dave & Buster's, Chuck E. Cheese, and Sega's GameWorks were all booming, and Michael Eisner wanted in on the action. His idea was a massive indoor arcade complex with a major focus on VR and experiences guests couldn't get anywhere else. Disney Quest would be the first in a national expansion with plans to build over 30 locations across the country. If it worked, Disney could bring theme park experiences to major cities, allowing people to enjoy high-tech Disney attractions without ever stepping foot in Florida or California. But there was one big problem. Even Disney wasn't sure how to explain what Disney Quest actually was. Was it a theme park, an arcade, a VR center? Even Disney's regional entertainment head, Art Levitt, didn't know what to call it, and that confusion extended to the guests. Once inside, guests would enter the Cyberlator and be transported into the digital world. The elevator doors would open into Ventureport, the central hub for Disney Quest. From there, guests could explore 4 distinctly themed zones, each offering a different kind of experience. First, we have Replay Zone. This area was packed with retro arcade cabinets, carnival-style games, and interactive attractions that had a nostalgic feel. One of those attractions was Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters, a unique bumper car attraction where guests picked up foam balls from the floor and launched them at each other using built-in cannons. Next up, we have Score Zone. This area focused around competitive and skill-based attractions, encouraging guests to go head-to-head or work together. Some of the notable attractions were the Mighty Ducks Pinball Slam, which was impossible to control if you ever played it, Invasion and Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter, which was focused around the Alien Encounter attraction in Tomorrowland at Magic Kingdom, and the most notable in my opinion was Ride the Comics. a VR sword fighting game where guests donned a bulky headset, wielded lightsaber-like weapons, and battled villains in a comic book style world. Next up, we have Create Zone, where guests tapped into their creativity, offering a mixture of interactive art, music, and design-based attractions. You could learn how to draw Disney characters at the Animation Academy, make your own music at the Radio Disney Songmaker, create toys at Sid's Create-A-Toy, and most notably, build and ride your own roller coaster at Cyberspace Mountain. This attraction was hosted by Bill Nye the Science Guy. You could build and design your own virtual roller coaster and then ride them in a 360-degree motion simulator that could flip upside down. As a kid, this was one of my favorites, but it was so claustrophobic. And lastly, we have Explore Zone, where guests could step inside their favorite Disney worlds using early VR technology and motion simulation. This area had attractions like the Virtual Jungle Cruise, Aladdin's Magic Carpet Ride, and Hercules in the Underworld, which was later replaced by Pirates of the Caribbean Battle for Buccaneer Gold. Despite the high-tech attractions, Disney Quest faced 3 major problems. As I had mentioned earlier, Disney Quest was meant to be a nationwide success, with plans for over 30 locations across the US. Before the Orlando location even opened, Disney announced Disney Quest Chicago, which debuted in June of 1999. Unlike Orlando, which benefited from tourists already visiting Disney World, Chicago relied on locals, and that proved to be a major issue. The ticket prices were a bit too steep for repeat visitors, the marketing was weak, and the VR technology was already aging compared to home gaming. Just 2 years later, on September 4th, 2001, Disney Quest Chicago shut down for good. With its failure, Disney immediately canceled all expansion plans, including a location in Philadelphia. All plans would be scrapped mid-construction, leaving behind an empty lot locals would call the Disney Hole. By 2002, the entire Disney Quest expansion was dead, and the Orlando location was the only one left, and its days were numbered. Technology was advancing too fast. What felt like cutting edge in 1998 was laughably outdated in the early 2000s. And home consoles were getting better. As video game systems like PS2, Xbox, and Wii brought better graphics and motion-controlled experiences to the home, people didn't need to visit Disney Quest for high-tech gaming experiences. With no expansion and no major updates, Disney Quest slowly became a forgotten relic inside Walt Disney World. By the 2010s, Disney Quest was on life support. It hadn't received significant updates in years, and attendance was steadily declining. Disney was regularly offering discounts and was giving away free admission with vacation packages. The park would eventually close on July 2nd, 2017, making way for the NBA experience, which ironically only lasted until 2021. But there actually seems to be some light on the horizon. After recording this video, Disney announced Level 99, an interactive gaming venue set to replace the NBA experience. The venue will feature more than 60 challenge rooms and duels, offering a variety of physical and mental games designed for teams of 2 to 6. As of now, there's no official opening date. It may not be the full return to VR and simulators, but for those longing for the glory days of high-tech and interactive experiences at Disney Quest, this could be the next glimmer of hope. This video is brought to you by the Posa Group. Are you looking to buy anywhere in the Central Florida area? We can help. Reach out today at theorlandoreal.com/real or email us at info@posagroup.com. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.